Hello and welcome to the ID Talk podcast. My name is Tony Bitzionis, and I'm here as always with my good friend and my co-host, Mr. Alex Perala. Alex, hello.
Hi, Tony.
Said it like you mean it. Wow. And we've got a great show today. We're really looking forward to talking to Eva Velasquez, CEO at the Identity Theft Resource Center. Eva, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. To get started, I mean, why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself? I know our audience probably knows you by now, but just go ahead and give us an intro and a brief kind of overview of what the ITRC is and what it does.
Well, I'm not sure that the audience knows me because I think I'm like famous with five people. This is a very it's a small space, and when you've been in the space for as long as I have, yeah, a lot of people get to know you, but I understand that certainly not everybody does. We were talking before we started recording about how long I've been in this space and that I started my career at the San Diego District Attorney's Office in June of 1986. I spent 21 years there. The last 11 focused on investigating economic crimes. So not necessarily all cyber or all technical, but just anything that had anything to do with money, with
Right.
finances. So a lot of fraud, a lot of consumer protection types of issues. I briefly went over to the San Diego Better Business Bureau as the VP of Operations, did that for about 4.5 years. And when the Identity Theft Resource Center, where I'm at now and have been for the last 15 years, was looking for new leadership, I felt really strongly that
Mhm.
this was the next step because the ITRC was founded in 1999. I was at the DA's office when this organization that was focused on helping victims and giving them the paths to recovery at no cost to them. It was a godsend. I was
Mhm.
so thrilled to have a place to send my victims to because my job was to get the bad guy and conduct the investigation. And
Right.
and victim recovery services and helping victims of crime, it's a very different activity. And having the investigators be responsible for that as well, it's too much work and it's different work. And I saw the dearth of resources that we have for financial crime victims. We just don't have that many, and we certainly didn't back in 1999. So coming over to the ITRC felt it sounds like I cobbled this career together a little bit, but
Mhm.
really there was a natural flow to it.
Yeah, it sounds like a natural progression. I mean, if you saw the victims of all these kind of crimes and then there was kind of as you put it, like a dearth of services and resources for them,
Hmm.
your interest to move in that direction makes complete sense to me at least.
Oh, the need was great then, and it's only increased now. And
I
what the
bet.
ITRC does, obviously we've expanded. So for the people that don't know, Um, we have a toll-free hotline where victims and concerned consumers can call and either get a recovery plan if they've been a victim or get risk minimization education, advice, help. Even if they're in the middle, maybe they've received an email or a text message and they don't know how to verify if it's legitimate or not. Any of those types of activities, we will help people for free. And they can
Mm.
call us, they can text us, they can live chat with us on our website. I mean, there's a number of ways that they can engage with us. And we never charge the public for those services because we're funded by Department of Justice, Office of Victims of Crimes grants, corporate sponsorships and grants, and public donations. So if anybody
Great.
listening wants to donate, they can do that on our website.
And we'll put that in the episode description.
Yeah, and to sort of underscore like how important this is, I know, at ID Tech we've been covering the reports that the ITRC puts out. And I remember when I was kind of new to this space, the identity space, it never really occurred to me how serious the impact of this kind of crime
Hmm.
can be. And then seeing your reports, and it would be like the suicide rate attached to some of this kinds of crime is it was kind of like shocking to me. So it's not just people like losing money. It's really taking a toll on some people.
Well, think about how, when you get in the space, you start to connect the dots and how identity is this this thread, this thing that it's through everything that we do. And the more we move into all these digital, particularly digital only transactions, our identity becomes the core of that. I am Eva and I want to buy this thing, get this subscription, I don't know, renew my car registration, whatever the transaction is, I have to prove that I am me. And with the way we've set that up, in all of the static data that's out there and data breaches and all of that, it's just easier and easier for someone other than you to say that they're you and be able to prove it. And your identity is deeply personal. You feel like, oh, it's
Mhm.
just my social security number or that piece of data about me. No, that is not how we feel about it. Our identity is deeply personal. So when it's
Mhm.
compromised or misused or abused, it's more than just the financial implications, which are huge and have a significant impact, but there's also that piece of that violation. Those structures and systems that I thought were in place to protect me have now demonstrably failed, and that can really like rock your whole foundation because now you know,
Mhm.
oh, that those things don't work the way I actually thought they worked, and I'm the one now left holding the bag, and I have to fix this even though I'm a crime victim,
Hmm.
but I have to do all of the work.
Yeah. And like I'm curious from your perspective because you traced like a career that has kind of touched on this even from the very beginning, and then obviously like you're tackling the identity issue head on at the ITRC, but over the last like 20-ish years, a lot of identity attestation has gone digital. So I'm
Hmm.
curious from your perspective, like has that just led to more fraud? Has it made it easier? Has it been helpful in some ways? I'm curious your perspective.
I think it's a mixed bag, really, because fraud is like squeezing the balloon, right? We always say you clamp down in one
Mhm.
area and it's just going to expand in another area, and we have a little bit of that with identity. We get better about proving that one facet or in this one type of digital only transaction, and something else sort of explodes. And because it's all intertwined, it's not just authentication and verification. That is a vulnerability and that is exploited and that happens. But now, with all the social engineering that we have going on, we have this other non-technical vulnerability that, frankly, right now is the one that's being exploited even more en masse than the more technical vulnerabilities. But we've seen the pendulum swing. And now we kind of have both going on at an unprecedented rate. I mean, I don't want to sound all doom and gloom, but the since the pandemic, I can say this is the worst I've ever seen it, and I'm not seeing us getting better. Just year
Hmm.
over year, it keeps getting the scope, the scale, the consequences, the impacts keep getting worse, and we really are in a place where we've got to make some big sweeping changes and decisions now, or I mean, we're never going to get the genie back in the bottle, right?
Right.
Identity is here to stay, and the foundations and how we do that are in place and would require massive upheaval if we were to change those. But we certainly have to make them much more robust.
Yeah. I think like we because of the nature of our business and reporting on this industry, I think we did see that like you talked about during the pandemic and how things have really shifted. We did see that, so many more transactions were happening online that people
Mhm.
needed to trust in whatever system that they were using, whether it was their banks or their governments. Um, and so yeah, things got a lot worse and there was a lot more fraud and the fraudsters are evolving. Have you seen or do you see evidence of people starting to really appreciate how much more serious identity theft is because of how much more prevalent it is, or do you think like there's still a lot of education that needs to be done to get the general public to kind of get up to speed with the stakes?
I'm going to answer kind of a different question because I know what you're asking me. And I,
Yeah.
I think what the challenge is that we we are categorizing all of these activities in a very granular way as the people in this space. So here's fraud, here's identity misuse, here's identity compromise, here's scams. And that's useful and important, and we need to keep doing that while we're doing this work. However, when real people are being either victimized or trying to wrap their heads around this problem, they don't think of it that way. They do
Right.
not think of their identity as being in all of these different silos. It's just this thing that they have to use to move forward in their life. And
Hmm.
we pushed, I want to backtrack a little bit. You know, during the pandemic, we pushed to digital only transactions. We were making the shift to this hybrid. Here's some digital, but then you're going to have to do something maybe in person over here or through the mail over here. And we had a lot more hybrid transactions. And when we pushed to digital only, so quickly, well, we just left the door
Hmm.
open for fraud. And instead of moving, when we had the ability to moving back to more hybrid and saying, let's get this right, we just kind of went, well, remote this works and digital only this kind of works, and let's just keep going in that direction. And I think it makes it a lot harder for us to fix those underlying problems while
Yeah.
it's sort of, we're what do they say, driving the train while we're building the tracks.
Mm.
And that was a choice that we made, that businesses, people in this space, experts made, all the while the people, the data subjects, if you want to call them that, the owners
Yeah.
of those identity credentials that are being used, they're on the train, but they have no ability to help build the tracks, to say what direction they're going, where's the destination. And I think we have to shift our, see, I'm getting back to answer your question. I know you were wondering, where's she going? But
You
I
found a
think
better question in my question.
we have to shift how we think about this problem when it comes to informing people, educating people, listening to people when they
Yeah.
tell us, I don't understand that, or that doesn't make any sense. Well, that makes sense to me. It's
Mhm.
so fractured right now. And I think we have to step back and really take a much more holistic look. Right now, there's all this attention on scams, all of this attention on scams. Great. I love it. We need more attention there, but these things are all intertwined. So let's look at the big problem of identity and how it's being used and how it can be misused. It's the pathway to get your money. Everybody thinks scams are just a financial problem, and they're not. There's always, almost always, data and identity credentials involved that open a door for more misuse and abuse later on. We've got to look at this as this. Um, it's a complex problem with many facets, but it is a single problem.
Mhm.
Mhm. Are there like high level solutions that you think are out there that need to just be implemented or considered? Like, is there something the government should be doing differently, or what's the answer even to
I
solve
mean,
this?
I was going to say the list is long, so
Uh,
I don't think we have time, in a podcast to get through that. I think I do think there are solutions that exist out there. I think they need more exploration. Um, and there's no silver bullet, right? That's the other thing. I think that still to this day, when I talk to decision makers, particularly in government, we need a one-stop shop. We need a silver bullet. We need to do this one thing. I'm sorry. You can say that all day long. That is not what's going to solve this problem. One thing is not going to solve this problem.
mhm.
One strategy that is we now have proposals for a national scam strategy,
Mm.
but that's just one little piece. And what about recovery? What about fraud? What about identity data breaches and compromises? What about misuse? So, I mean, I would like to see us have a much more comprehensive strategy about identity and the use and misuse of identity. But right now, oh, but that's cybersecurity. That's
Mhm.
cybercrime. That's identity theft. We got to coalesce around it. So we've got to start with that solution before I think we could start implementing more technical and granular solutions.
Yeah. And I guess you kind of already answered this, but I do want to, like you implied the answer, but I do want to know what you think. Like, there's a lot of different solutions that are emerging and being put forward, like digital ID, like
Hmm.
passkeys.
Hmm.
I find myself more and more authenticating through Google, which is very convenient, but I'm kind of uneasy about how secure that is. So, like, what you already said, there's not one solution. Do you think that
Hmm.
this like kind of patchwork is helpful, or is it making it worse to have so many different ways of authenticating?
Oh, that's a really good question. Right now, I think it's helpful.
Mhm.
I think anytime we can create solutions that don't put the onus on the individual to understand or remember them and they're secure. Like I'm a
Mm.
huge fan of passkeys. We are huge, huge fans of passkeys. They eliminate a whole fraud, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Fraud type,
Mhm.
Mm.
because you can't self-compromise that information. You don't with the passkey, you don't actually know what the token is, right? Um, we know that your average passkey user doesn't really understand the intricacies of how they work. They
Mhm.
just know they don't have to necessarily remember anything, and it's pretty intuitive. So those are good solutions. Again, we're not going to have one solution that's going to solve this entire problem, but adding solutions like that that are easy for people to intuitive, easy for them to manage, don't require them to have, know how to code.
Mhm.
Um,
Mm.
I I think those are going to be helpful. This wouldn't be a podcast about identity or fraud if we didn't talk about AI. So
Right.
I think throwing AI into the mix right now is very, very challenging. It's this destructive force that is creating a lot of problems while at the same time it's solving some of them. I have a real crisis of conscience in that AI has created a lot of issues with scams and
Mhm.
fraud, and yet we need to leverage AI in order to solve the problem. It
Right.
doesn't feel great, but it's necessary. We
Mhm.
we certainly have to do that. So right now, I think it's important that we keep surfacing these solutions and seeing which ones work and which ones work best for the individuals that have to, get on board and use them. I'm not sure how long we can maintain that because people are already confused enough and overwhelmed enough.
Mhm.
They hit that breaking point a while ago. It's not like, oh,
Yeah.
we're gonna get there. No, no, no. That was a while ago. They're past it. But I also think people are starting to understand how important this is because they're being
Mm.
impacted by it.
Yeah, I like your the point you made about how people like how end users experience like with passkeys, they don't know that the concept even necessarily that they're not sharing the token, but or they don't know the token, but that's like
Mhm.
a critical part of it. There's also the growing idea of identity binding, like encoding biometric data in a QR code, and
Mhm.
that could solve a lot of problems. But that too is going to be something where the end user is probably just going to look at it and be like, "Oh, it's a QR code," and not even realize that it has like their biometric data
Right.
in it. But the point is, like, at least get these in the hands of people and get them using them. They don't need to know conceptually how it works as long as it does, I guess.
I mean, I think I would scale that back like one step. I think conceptually people do need to know how it works. Like there needs to be a level of transparency that they're being told that
Mhm.
this is a pass key and you don't have to remember anything. It's a token. They don't have to understand the intricacies of that. I think with biometrics, it is a little bit different because people remember when I said identity is personal.
Mm.
Mm.
People have very, very personal feelings and beliefs about their biometrics. And the only way that we kind of sort that out is we have very open and transparent conversations about it.
Mhm.
I have conversations with people who they start with, biometrics, you can have my biometrics when you pry them from my cold, dead hands. That's an
Yeah.
invasion of privacy. How dare you? And it's really mostly around government. I don't
Mhm.
want the government to have my biometrics. And then I ask the simple question, do you have a driver's license or a state ID card or a passport? To
Yeah.
which they say yes. The vast, vast majority of the time, your government has your biometrics. They have a photograph of you.
Mhm.
Oh, well, okay. That's not, I mean, that's not so bad. And when we talk about the difference between um, facial verification and facial recognition, and that is how I phrase it to people that these are very different. Please, we have to stop saying one to one and one to many because nobody knows what that means
Yeah.
unless you're
Yeah.
in this space. Just say recognition or verification. Recognition. Who is this person? Verification. I am me. I am
Yeah.
this person. I'm giving you my consent. People get it. People get it. We just have to explain it in less technical terms. But I do think that transparency when it comes to biometrics is absolutely key, especially with the lack of trust we have right now with
Mhm.
institutions and with corporations. It's going to feel like you're trying to put one over on people if we don't say, hey, we think using your biometrics in this instance is actually it's good for everybody. It's good for you, makes it more seamless. You can prove that you are you. It's consent based. Nobody's doing this behind your back. All of that stuff, we need to keep repeating it over and
Mhm.
over to make sure people both understand and to make sure that governments and businesses do follow those rules and are transparent and continue to make it consent based and not do things behind people's back.
Yeah. That's a really important point.
Woo, rant over. That was a
Yeah,
good
no,
rant.
that
No, no, that's transparency and education are super important. That's part of our mission as well, although I don't like
Mhm.
to say we have a mission, but we kind of do.
it's a secret mission.
We all have a
We all have
mission.
a
Come on.
mission. Uh,
Missions aren't just for nonprofits. Everybody you can have a personal mission, you can have a corporate mission. Come on.
yeah. I want to go back to AI, which I'm glad you brought up because usually it's me bringing it up. So thank you for that. But there is a thing I want to kind of bring to our listeners' attention. We covered this on ID Tech a couple weeks ago, but it wasn't. We didn't break the story. There's a outfit called 404 Media that are doing really good investigative journalism, and they found this. Um, like they got access to a network like yeah, on like a digital black market where they were able to procure um like a deep fake tool
Hmm.
and it works in real time. It works over Zoom or on Teams. Like in a call live, it will show someone else's face and it
Yes.
very accurately maps what you're saying. And
Hmm.
I was like kind of shocked and confused because I'm a bit of a hobbyist with AI video creation. Like I played around with it, and it was so close to the frontier of what's possible. And I'm like, how did someone make this and sell it on the black market? Like I thought you would need to be OpenAI or
Mm,
Anthropic to have this kind of technology. And
mm,
so it just made me wonder, like, what is circulating on the dark web, so to speak, that is at that level that we're not even aware of? And also, what is the role of organized crime? Because this is a tool being offered through a network that operates through basically like dark web channels. So
Hmm.
this kind of ties to something I wanted to ask you, which is what have you observed the role to be of organized crime in identity theft? Like, has that been prevalent, or it's not just like one-off scammers?
I think it's, and I will say, I don't consider myself an expert in the role of organized crime within this ecosystem.
Mhm.
It's not a huge area of focus for me. I, however, do still have an opinion, and I'm going to give it. And I kind of look at the way that the fraud ecosystem has changed over the last 30 years, since I got really deeply entrenched in this. And the barrier to entry into this ecosystem is now non-existent. When I
Right.
started my career, if you wanted to perpetrate fraud, you did have to have some for just yourself. You had to have some idea of how to perpetrate this. You had to put it together. You had to walk the walk and talk the talk because it usually wasn't digital only. You were interacting with people.
Mm.
Now you don't need any of those skills. A little bit of seed money, you can buy whatever you need on the dark web and more often on the public web from YouTube. It's not in the shadows anymore. You just need a desire to take advantage of people and steal from people and a little bit of seed money. They will give you lessons. There are instructional videos. That ecosystem now functions the same way the legitimate business ecosystem functions, the way a household functions. I can't do every single thing in my home to take care. I'm going to hire a plumber. How do I find a
Mm.
plumber? Maybe I go on Yelp. Well, I don't know. I want to commit unemployment benefits identity theft. I don't have to know how to do it. I just want to I buy some data, I get some how-to manuals, and I'm off to the races. And with these AI tools, these very, very sophisticated tools, all that's doing is allowing the bad guys to be better, to distribute these tools much more quickly to anyone who wants them, and to create these new vulnerabilities much faster than the experts, law enforcement can keep up with them. Now, where is organized crime in all this? They have a nice seat in that, but I don't want to dismiss the fact that are there sophisticated global operations operating across borders? Absolutely, 1000%. But there are also people, domestic people, that are just like, well, I don't have any other opportunities. One man show, husband and wife, friendly, family of fraudsters. That is still happening too. So really, I think it's at all levels, and these tools just make it easier for the less sophisticated, well-financed kind of fraud machines. They it makes it easier for someone to break into that and
Yeah.
steal mail and buy some data to complement the mail that they just stole. Mail, and I still do have conversations with like local consumer reporters who are like, there's a rash of mail theft in this neighborhood. Is that still a thing? It's like, yeah, analog still happens.
Mm.
Doesn't take
Hmm.
our breath away. The scope and the scale is not what we see digitally. But yeah, there's still mail theft and people breaking into cars and houses to less to steal money and jewelry. Now it's to steal identity documents and
Information.
papers
Yeah.
and information. Yeah.
Mm. Um,
I mean, I have like a question that I've been trying to formulate over the last couple of minutes because I think my mind always goes back to this thing like in the 90s and early 2000s, and maybe even before that, like cybercrime was like a thing that people knew of because of movies and because of like the news.
Hmm.
It wasn't ever really totally defined, but it was like cybercrime or like hackers, like beware. And you didn't really
Hmm.
know what they were doing. You were like, oh, they're doing something on like the computers over there, and it could be really bad. Like there's going to be numbers flying all over the screen, and they're going to get into places where we don't want them, and bad things will happen, but people knew and know what that is in a general sense. But when it comes to identity risks and concerns and biometrics and that whole, like you touched on it earlier, the like you can pry my biometrics out of my cold dead hands, and uh, the general public, and this is, I think, the ID talk drinking game now. Alex just took a drink. There you go. When I mentioned the general public, uh, there's not as much, it requires a lot more explanation to kind of give them the overlay of biometrics and digital identity and the threats. So I'm curious if you think that it's the whole question of when will this topic enter more of the mainstream media, the mind of the average person when they're thinking about the risks today when they're online, if AI and what you just talked about, how easy it is for a not a non-organized criminal to get their hands on this like really powerful tech and get instructions on YouTube, if that phenomenon could be the thing that pushes this a bit further into the mainstream, or if that's just going to happen naturally with time, because as you said, like, you can't put the genie back in the bottle and this isn't going to fix itself.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack there. Like,
That's why it took
that's
me
a
so long to
really good,
formulate it because I didn't finish formulating.
it's a really good question. My first comment is going to be, when you're talking about 90s and cybercrime and people knowing about cybercrime, I will say that the kind of the common understanding at that time was really that cybercrime didn't affect individuals. It was businesses and government.
Right.
They're going after the bank. They're going after the art museum, maybe. And so it was a little bit removed from, I guess this hurts me because it hurts society and hurts everybody, but it didn't feel like, oh, that could really impact me.
They're
Right.
hacking the
And I,
mainframe.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And they're gonna, yeah, okay, well, they're gonna hack the mainframe and turn. I'm trying to think of, was it Live Free, Die Hard, the Bruce Willis one? They're fire
Yeah.
sale and all that
Yeah. Yeah.
fantastical stuff. And people go, well, yeah, that would be really bad because I won't have like lights.
Right.
Um, but this understanding of just how we live and work now is it's so vastly different. It does impact individuals, and I think we've crossed the Rubicon there. I do
Mhm.
think and I'm biased. I do this all the time. I talk to people all the time, um, and I have to say these are people that are seeking out this information, so they want to talk to me. So that's where my bias is. I go do presentations and community events, but I do feel like we have crossed into that where people do know that this is important, that this is part of their lives. They do know that they need to understand these, how the internet, how cyber, how all of these things work in order to protect themselves. I think we're there
Mhm.
already. Now,
Right.
as we start getting into the really more sophisticated pieces of how these things work, I think the challenge with that and what AI is doing right now, in my opinion, is flooding people's news feed and consciousness to the point where they're disengaging. I know a lot of um, this is going to sound the hubris here. I have a lot of very smart friends who are not in this space. A lot of my former law enforcement friends, these were prosecutors, judges, just people who I would call astute, right? They know how to take in information, understand, learn. And I talk about AI and the perils of AI, and they're like, go get your tinfoil hat, Eva, and have
Yeah,
another
right.
glass of wine. So I I I don't know what it's going to take. I'll know it when I see it, but I
Hmm.
think right now there's a lot of scary stuff. I think
Hmm.
people do know that this is creating a lot of problems in cyber, in scams and fraud. They don't know what to do about it, and I think they're like, okay, well, I'm just going to go over here
Yeah.
because this is too overwhelming. We've got to
Yep.
simplify how we talk about this and really outline. I don't think we need to outline the threats for people. I think they know they exist. We need to outline how this is going to shape and impact our lives and
Yep.
how they can have some autonomy, some industry over this over Skynet. Okay, let's just come
Hmm.
on. Let's just call it
Yeah.
what it is.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, I mean, uh, the picture you're painting is pretty dire,
I
but
know it's a little bleak. I'm sorry, Alex. I want to be little Miss Mary Sunshine, but it's a little rough out there right
no,
now.
it's great. It means there's plenty of work for you to do in the years to come.
Oh,
So yeah, it's
I can't, not another 40 years though, man. I don't know. I don't know.
No, but I mean, clearly the ITRC, its work is going to be ongoing and
Mhm.
intensifying. So I know we're kind of like pretty much out of time. So is there maybe we should end just by reminding people how they can support the ITRC and God forbid how they can get in touch if they actually need your help and yeah, I just want to say that we've been tracking what you've been doing for years and it's really, really important. People should take a look at some of those
Mhm.
reports because the impact is very serious, as I mentioned earlier.
I think that's a great way to end, and it is a little bit of a silver lining too. So we're not going to end on a dreary note. Look, for the professionals listening, I really do encourage them to look at our reports, look at our data. We're putting this information out to help elevate the field, but I also want them and any other, just avid people who are avidly interested in this space who are listening. We're your organization. We're here for you. That's our
Mhm.
whole purpose is to make sure that victims and regular old folks who want help or want to build their understanding know that they have a trusted resource that they can go to. And if you do want to help us to answer those calls and meet that mission, if you're a business that wants to sponsor us, join an advisory board, help support it, by all means, please reach out. If you're someone who actually needs help, or you have a family member that needs help and needs a recovery plan, you can call the toll-free number. You can live chat with us on our website. But the bottom line is the reason the ITRC is here is so nobody has to go it alone. So
Mhm.
the individuals have a place to go if you need help. But hey, businesses, government, so do you. And we're here to help everybody.
Here, here.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you so much for joining us, Eva. This was great. I feel
It
like
was
we
a
could have
pleasure.
probably, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll
thank you.
come back and rant some more.
Please, that'd be
Get
great.
get
Yeah,
on it, beat my drum, get on the mountaintop yelling. Yeah, it was fun.
yeah.
I enjoyed the conversation.